the dental community, and to, I think you have been through a lot to come to that point when you
Yeah.
start to share and wanting to reach out. So please tell us who you are and tell us about your story.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. And I've enjoyed following you online. I mean, you have the most interesting career I could ever imagine. I mean, from dentist to DJ to life coach to podcaster. I mean, you're really well rounded. I love that about you. And I'm so
Thanks.
appreciative that we're having this conversation today. So thanks
Yeah,
for having
me
me on.
too. Thank you.
So I guess just to tell you a little bit about myself, I got out of dental school in '96. Was an associate for a few years. Bought that practice. Was really successful. We did a lot to kind of grow the business and increase our patient flow. We got more patients to say yes, and within 2 years, I was just about burnt out. I mean, I know you've been there, and it was one of those things where I was seeing so many patients that it was difficult to really establish those great relationships or nurture those relationships that I'd been building for 3 years because I was the guy and I was
Mm.
doing so much. So at that point, had to make a pivot and kind of blew up the whole thing and started over from scratch.
Let me pause you. What were the symptoms? So, for the listeners out there, because we speak about burnout, but what were
Yeah.
your symptoms?
I was exhausted at the end of the every single day. And when I came home, like I didn't have patience to have one more conversation. I was not present when I came home. I wanted to have like me time, downtime. And that's not the best place to be, in a new marriage and as a new father and as somebody who was so out of balance. My God, Christina, I didn't think I could last another 3 or 4 years as a clinical dentist, let alone have a whole career. So, I mean, you and I both know when you get to that point, if you don't make changes, then you're going to be in a really bad place.
What made you make these changes? And what changes did you do?
You know what? I think that the realization that my wife and I were growing further and further apart, and that I wasn't happy at the office. I was less patient. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I felt good about the work I was doing, but I wasn't having that time to really connect like I had previously when I was an associate. So, what I decided to do, Christina, because that model wasn't sustainable for me, I decided that I needed to go back to the drawing board and develop a practice where I didn't have to see so many patients, where I could have more time with each patient, build those relationships,
Mhm.
and do better dentistry at the end of the day. So
Mm.
I got a little crazy, Christina. I went out and did like 250, 300 hours of continuing education with my team every year. And I mean, we learned a lot, but we spent a lot of money. We were, I think, 100,000 to $200,000 a year for about 4 or 5 years. And as you can imagine, the overwhelm from all the education and trying to implement all these things, it was different, but it
Another
was better.
burnout, another burnout came.
You know what? To
It
to
goes
some
in
degree,
cycles, doesn't it? It comes.
I think some of it comes down to our personalities. If
Yeah.
you have a type A personality and you always want to be growing, you always want to be doing, you don't want to be just a dentist or just anything, then I think
Mm.
it's in our nature to have
Yeah.
that happen periodically. And I've had 3 or 4 of those moments in my career.
Yeah. I still have them. My my husband has said, "Do you realize that you're the first one speaking about burnout,
Yeah,
having burnout?"
yeah,
But when he said that, I was like, I will look that up, and I googled it, and it said that that's normal. People that, just like you said, it's a personality type. We cannot really stop. We push ourselves. We don't feel when it's time to stop. So I
right.
think at least once a month, I feel not burnout, but I feel that I have pushed myself too far. So I
Yes.
feel really, really tired. But now when that comes, I'm like, okay, I will take it easy. So I would just be in the sofa maybe a whole day.
Good.
Uh, because I didn't work 8 hours the days before. I pushed myself maybe 12 hours, 12
Right.
hours plus 12 hours. Well, the third day I can be in my sofa, but I couldn't see that before. And that's the difference.
Right, absolutely, and I actually just came to one of those realizations again, like 9 days ago. I mean, I'm building some new businesses. I'm trying to create value for as many dentists as possible. 29 years in, I've learned a lot. I've got a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and a lot of great relationships. And so I'm parlaying that all into a couple of different endeavors. But because they're new, I found myself 11 to 17 hours a day because, whenever I had a new idea, I had to just keep chasing it.
Exactly.
And before you know it, it's 3 in the morning and I'm going to get maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep. And I was doing that month over month over month. And now I made a decision 9 days ago that I got to dial it back again, start getting my sleep. And I know I'll be a lot better communicator. I'll be a
Yeah.
lot more efficient. And I think a lot more effective in everything I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Because the difficult thing is, once when you're in this phase where all these ideas come, you cannot
Right.
let it go, because if you wait, then they disappear. Like you have to grab them.
Absolutely. You're speaking my language. You understand. I mean, I don't I don't know that I've ever talked to anybody who articulated it so well, but it's exactly how I feel. If I
Yeah.
don't do it now, it'll be
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. I know. And I think it's like gifts some I it's yeah.
Well, good for you. Gosh, it's so interesting for you. It seems like you have a lot of different outlets, since you stopped being a clinical dentist and doing the DJing. I mean, that's got to be a huge stress relief for you.
I think I've always had it, because now, like, I look I think back, sometimes between patients, I just said to the assistant, I closed the door and I said, I'm just going to dance a little bit. And she was like, yeah, whatever. And I put the camera and I made, and I was like 40 years old. It's not that I was 20, it was in me. Something
Yeah,
had to come out. This craziness, these, like, I cannot explain where it comes from, but I've always had it since I was a small child. So
that's
I
great.
don't think we can fool ourselves. What has to come out has to come out. If not, we develop other things like drinking, or these bad
Unhealthy
roads.
habits,
Yeah,
right.
unhealthy habits.
Well, and I mean, as well as I do that in dentistry, I mean, it's been a problem, at least in the US. I don't know if it's much a problem in Europe or not, but here in the US, since the day I started dental school in 1992, dentists have had the highest drug abuse, divorce, and suicide rates of any other profession. And, on day one of dental school, I couldn't understand that. I thought, my gosh, my dentist, he comes in, he sees me for 3 minutes and he's gone. He's probably sitting with his legs up on his desk, watching TV, who knows? And, when you get out, the reality is we are driven human beings. We're perfectionists, but we come out without a lot of those skill sets that we
Mm,
need to be successful. We don't really learn business. We don't really learn communication. We really don't learn to be leaders. Then all of a sudden we're thrust into a business where we've got to do all of those things. And we've usually got a lot of debt and there's just so much pressure to perform. And what about all those patients who say, hey, nothing personal, doc, but I really hate dentists. I
mm.
really don't want to be here. And then you put on your loops and you're dealing in tenths of millimeters. Like, people don't understand it unless they've been there and done that like we have.
Yeah, I totally agree. So tell us about all your projects, because I love your new newsletters. It's so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
The one I shared was about setting boundaries. Like, I
Yeah.
I couldn't set any boundaries. I realized that I had a lot of issues. Yeah, issues. I had issues. I couldn't set boundaries. I wanted to be liked, and it
Yeah.
shouldn't be legal to go through 5 years of dental school with that personality type.
Oh,
It
yes.
shouldn't be. And yeah, business, don't talk about it. I couldn't speak about money. What should I charge? I didn't do so much. It's like,
Yeah, right, right.
It's,
It takes
yeah,
it takes time, and I think it takes confidence, and it takes, I think, that knowledge that it's not just that 20 minutes or 1 hour or however long we spend with a patient. It's the years and years of study and experience to get to that level of expertise.
yeah,
The investment of time, the investment of money to get that education, and then maybe to buy that business or to build that business. Christina, the first day that I walked in the door as a business owner, I had $1 million in debt and I had $10,000 in the bank. And talk about stress.
yeah, yeah,
That was a really rude awakening. And the reality was, I better make this happen. And if I don't, things are going to be really, really bad. And fortunately, I did spend a year like really getting ready for that. I spent a year as an associate, really learning the business, learning to communicate better, trying to learn leadership. But as well as I do, so often it's like trial and error. You make a lot of mistakes, you get something right, and then you just try to repeat that while avoiding the mistakes, right?
yeah, 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 totally. It's, but do you still have your practice?
No, so my story, I told you about the overwhelm and that going out
Yeah.
and getting all that CE. And within a couple of years of doing all of that education, I was asked to be a clinical mentor with the David Hornberg group. And so I did that for several years. I was on a lot of different boards and helping set up big events and provide education to a lot of dentists. So in that process, through thousands of hours as a student and then thousands of hours as a mentor or educator, um, I learned, Christina, that my favorite way to learn and teach was in small groups because it's more personal. And
Yeah,
in a group of 10 or 15 people, like, you can really be more vulnerable and you can
yeah,
share, and you have more direct access to the educator. That's when you can have real conversations. That's when the educator kind of lets down their guard a little bit, and the education becomes more conversational, almost more of a mastermind format where you can
mm,
apply what you're learning to your specific situation.
mm, yeah,
And that is something that I loved so much that it had always been in the back of my mind, thinking, gosh, at some point I would love to provide that for other dentists so that they can have these transformative experiences like I did in those small
mm,
group settings. So, fast forward through multiple practices purchased and started and, grown successfully, and 4 kids, and then 5 years of Ironman triathlon training, and just a crazy life. Finally, in 2015, just 10 years ago, I, I got an offer I couldn't refuse for my practices. And so I went ahead and accepted it because at 45, I thought if I signed a 5-year contract, then at 50, I can be done with clinical dentistry. I'd kind of done everything that I wanted to do, and I
mm,
felt like I'd proven myself. Then I could start to do what I was really meant to do, at age 50.
mm.
And so I've been trying to figure that out now for the past 5 years.
I think we will figure out that the whole life, like
You know what?
life is a journey and it changes, and we just have to trust. Just, I think the right road is just following where your passion, where you feel excitement. Okay, there are maybe people that don't need. I know that I'm a person who needs excitement.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying I need it all the time, but
Right.
I need to feel like these butterflies.
Yeah.
And I did feel it in my clinic. I loved my work. I felt it every day when the patients were happy. I felt it when I did these beautiful smile makeovers. If you
Yeah.
scroll down, you can see I was like before and after, and the patients
Yeah.
reactions.
Right.
But because I couldn't handle business, I couldn't set boundaries, I was this people pleaser.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the space in a clinic became a traumatic place. Like, I
Mm.
went there, and by the end of the day, I I received a lot, but I it was always like a deficit. Like, I had
Yeah.
given more than I received,
Yeah.
given more than I received, and until it came to a day when that excitement was gone. And that's
Yeah.
why I have this strong mission to really spread this word, because once that feeling comes, that doesn't matter the money, doesn't
Yes,
matter who says I'm the best dentist. I don't want this anymore. And that's a
exactly.
difficult place to be, because if I'm not a dentist, if I don't have my clinic, who am I? I
Right.
had to go on the road and find myself again.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that because, through that whole process, I did kind of reinvent myself and I
Mhm.
reinvented our practice. And I got to the point where I was doing those life changing procedures. I didn't want to do it until I felt really confident that I could do it well. And once I did, that it kind of changed everything because all of a sudden you're doing, new smiles or full mouth rehabilitations and things that require a higher level of communication and a higher level of kind of, I guess, value creation with patients. And boy, I really loved that, Christina. That became something I was so passionate about. And so I really enjoyed that clinical side where,
Mm.
like you said, you're
Yeah.
changing lives and patients are so happy to have gotten that, and it's exhausting. It takes a high level of concentration. And again, when we're dealing in tenths of millimeters, and by the way, we still have to check hygiene patients, and we have a team that we have to lead, and we've got financial things and bills to pay. It's a lot, I think, for any dentist to do. But you have to find a way to, I think, mitigate some of that stress with, just what do they call those? Skills, coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
whether it's exercise, whether it's music, whether it's dancing,
Mm.
whether it's a great walk in the park. We got to have those things. And I think sometimes dentists kind of miss out on that part, or just
Yeah.
so tired at the end of the day that they just want to plop down in front of the TV and not do anything else, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I heard one day one dentist said dentists are so boring, but it's not that dentists are boring. I think we lose ourselves
Yeah.
because we are. It's funny because Mahatma Gandhi there's a quote that I like: "Find yourself by losing yourself in the surface of others." And
Hmm.
that's true. For example, when you do volunteer work, that you find yourself, and that's healing.
Yeah.
But in dentistry, by giving so much to our patients and dealing with all this fear, and they don't want to see you and
Yeah.
all that, I think it's a high risk to lose yourself.
It sure is. And in addition to being responsible for your patient's care and, I mean, oral health, we're responsible for our teams too, to some degree. When
Mm.
you're a business owner, you've got a lot of people depending on you, for their
Oh yeah.
livelihood. And it's a big responsibility. And I think that, uh, i- if you become a good leader, then you can equip your team to, do a lot of the things that you were doing previously, which then empowers them, makes them feel a sense of ownership. And before you know it, at least in my career, I was finally able to stop micromanaging, feeling like I had to do everything.
Mm.
As soon as I got to that point where I wasn't just delegating, like giving tasks away, but I was delegating and trusting that they would do a
Mm.
great job. But I don't think we would have gotten to that point, if I hadn't, sort of built a good team, given them the tools to be successful, been able to articulate my vision clearly, and then just make sure that we're all properly aligned. And once we get to that point, things got pretty good, for a long
Yeah.
time. And those are the kinds of things, Christina, a lot like you, those are the things that I want to share with other dentists.
Mm.
Some of the mistakes I made or challenges that I came up against, I want to help dentists fast track or find a way around that rather than having to do the trial and error thing like I did.
Yeah.
And then the things that went really well, I want them to learn from that because you can condense time and get to success more quickly that way.
Yeah. Tell us about the retreats.
Oh yeah. So, you know, back to that. Over the past 5 years, I had a corporate job for a year, and I was on the road for 201 nights that year. I gained a lot of weight. It was just such an unhealthy lifestyle that, last summer I finally got some clarity on exactly how to do what I'd always kind of been thinking about, but hadn't been in a position to actually put together. So I put together a team of some of the best educators in dentistry. Guys like Steve Rasner, Arun Garg, Jeff Buski, who
Mm.
Elijah Desmond, Deborah King, Gary Takis, Fred Joyle, Trent Smallwood, Val Dangler, Tom Larkin, some really interesting people, and they're all niche experts. They have things that they're really good at. And while I'm pretty well versed in almost all the categories, I'm not necessarily the niche expert, but I know all those people. They're good friends of mine. Some of them have been mentors. Some of them I've mentored in different ways. But those friendships have been really fun to kind of turn into luxury dental retreats where we are taking dentists to luxury destinations, really cool venues with really great educational content. Because in addition to my passion for teaching, I have grown passionate about luxury travel. My wife, kids, and I have done some really cool stuff over the years. So I thought, you know what? Why not combine the two? Because a lot of dentists, they don't take enough time away from the office, to relax and sort of re-energize, but they also want to do education. So I thought, why not combine great education with an
Mm.
amazing vacation? And so that's kind of how it all came together. And rather than me being the one to like be talking to everybody for 3 days, now I'm bringing at least one speaker along. And so the two of us can
Mm.
talk and have these conversations that don't just go from 9 to 5 or 8 to 2. They are 72 hours, or in
Mm.
Dubai in August, 120 hours of access to us. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of the value comes from that conversation that happens after the session. We
Yeah.
might be out on a yacht. We might be having a Michelin star dinner, but we're talking about
Yeah.
practice. We're talking about life. We're talking about finding that balance and in that elusive, happiness, whatever that looks like for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so helpful to hear other people's stories. First of all, you realize that you're not alone,
Right.
because when I went through the burnout, I really felt that I was the only one. I got the feeling. So I started to research.
Yeah.
That was the first time was 2015. And I Googled, like,
Yeah.
is there somebody else? Hello. Am I the only one?
Right.
And then you
Right.
start to see, well, there are more people. And nowadays, more people are speaking about it.
It's
So,
true. It's true. I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of dentists feel like they're on an island. They
mm,
could have a very successful practice, but they may not have much interaction with any of their
yeah,
colleagues,
yeah,
and they get lonely
mm,
because let's be honest, not that many people can understand what we go through. Every time I talk about the statistics to anybody who's outside of dentistry,
yeah.
like, what? What are you
What?
even
Yeah.
talking about? And so when the people you spend your time with don't understand that and can't relate
Mm,
to that, it does feel like you're the only one. And so
yeah,
finding community, finding mentors, finding people who understand, having those conversations, a coach like you can really kind of peel back those layers. And I have no doubt that dentists are a lot more comfortable talking with you, and they
yeah,
probably open up and you hear a lot more than you even thought you would because they know you understand.
yeah, yeah. It is. The good thing with coaching is that it's based on asking questions, so it's not based on my story.
Yeah.
So you could coach anyone, doesn't matter their profession, but it is special to be a dentist. So it is, there are benefits, being there.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful because right now I'm coaching dentists that are in different phases of their career, and I really
Great.
enjoy it because I remember, like, one dentist, she will open her practice in a year. And I'm really happy for her because I remember how happy I was. And now I
Right.
feel like I can give her this gift of knowing all the errors I did. I'm not speaking to her in a way like, I did like this and now you
Yeah.
should do it. But for example, like, I didn't have so many protocols I didn't have protocols how the receptionist should answer the phone. But now I know that every little single detail in your clinic should be studied. If you want to receive the patient in a special way, everybody in the team should receive. So even if one is sick, the other person will receive the patients in the same matter, so that won't affect the quality. So
Right,
all these details,
right.
or you have to know your numbers. You cannot just go with your feelings. Know your numbers.
Yeah,
What does the practice cost?
yeah.
But many dentists, because they didn't teach us that, we're like, oh, we're just
Honestly,
following.
it's so true. And if you don't have great systems, then you're never going to be efficient. You're never going to like have team members who are become interchangeable. And when you do have turnover, it's kind of a disaster because you're starting over from square one. But if
Hmm.
you have efficient systems in place that everybody understands when someone new comes in, as long as they're the right person, they have the right work ethic and attitude, and you're aligned, from a philosophical standpoint, I mean, they can learn really quickly. And that's great for your business. It's great for patients. It's great for the team. It's great for morale. And we're a lot less likely to hit that burnout stage. And I think that you asked a great question earlier, Christina. Your question about like, what are the signs and symptoms? Like, how do you know when you're getting to that point? And I think for me, being able to recognize that, before you hit that wall, it is really important because then you can, again, like you said, dial things back, rein yourself in a little bit, and try to be a little bit more reasonable about the expectations you have of yourself.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
What
So
do
how
they say
many?
though? Anybody who doesn't track their numbers don't have a business. They have a hobby,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
the
yeah.
business
I
is
was
going to
really
run
bad
you.
at it. I was really bad at it because I have never had really the business mind. I became a dentist because I wanted to make a difference, in people's
Yeah,
lives. Peace, love, and understanding. Like, but then you realize, hey, this is the real world. Doesn't matter what I think and want. You
yeah,
have to pay the bills, and that is a big stress factor.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
It's a
Well,
complex and very expensive business to run and operate. And
yeah,
if you don't kind of rein that in and sort of figure it out, at least to some degree, you're going to really struggle. So
yeah, yeah.
it's
I
cool
think I
though.
became I think if I'm going to be really, I think I became a really good dentist like the last, when I had been in I have heard that before. You have to be a dentist for 10 years until you become a good dentist. Like, you have to go through some challenges and see different scenarios. And then I think when I had been a dentist for 15, 16 years, then I started to become really good in the matter that, for example, I was afraid. The reel I put yesterday when I was dancing, that is the message I want to say. That when I had issues with, I was afraid that the patient would think that I was selling.
Right, right.
Because, many patients say, I hope you're not going to find anything today.
Yeah,
They're already like, you're going to sell. I don't want to do anything. And
right.
so I was really afraid of being received as selling. So I was afraid of saying everything. But the more experience I got, I was thinking, but I want, if I go to the hairdresser, or if I go to beauty salon, I want them to tell Christina, it would be great if you would do this, this, this. And the older you get,
Right.
the more things you have to do.
Well, you know what?
But that is really good service. So I
It's
realized that. So then I started to tell the patients everything I saw. And that's good service by doing it in an ethical way, of course, not saying things
of
that they don't need.
course.
Uh, so yeah.
There are a couple of things that you just touched on that I think are really important. I think one of them is it's incumbent upon us as oral health professionals to tell them everything that's going on, to treat them like they're a member of our family.
Mm,
Because if we don't tell them, Nobody's going to tell them. And I know as a young dentist, it was hard sometimes. It's like, oh gosh, are they going to think that I'm just trying to make my car payment? Or then I have kids. Oh, I'm just like funding my kids' education. It's like, no,
Yeah.
like if you were my mom or my sister, this is exactly what I would be telling you. And I don't have a horse in this race. It's your
Mhm.
mouth, it's your decision, and you're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't
Mhm.
do it. But it would not be good if I didn't tell them what they needed. And then I think the next piece of that is just coming from an abundance mindset. I think that when I first came out of school with all this debt and I was so scared, like, am I going to be able to pay the bills? There's a little bit of a scarcity mindset, and that, oh my
Mm.
gosh, if they don't say yes to this crown,
Mm.
what's going to happen? And I think that in our careers, obviously we're there to serve. First and foremost, it's all about the patient. And I think that confidence comes just with repetitions, comes with conversations, comes with people saying yes, and you're just more relaxed. And then people
Mm.
say yes more often because you're coming from abundance and they're not sensing a
Yeah.
sale, and
Yeah.
we just become better communicators as we grow in confidence, for
Yeah.
sure.
And one detail that I noticed is the older you look, the more confident the patient gets. Because I remember the first 10 years, but that's true. The first 10 years, they
Yeah,
looked at me in the waiting room and they were like, "Are you the dentist? You look so young."
I
And I
know.
really, I didn't, and that you start from a starting point that now I have to show that I'm confident enough, that I have
Yeah,
experience while I'm looking young. And I've heard that a lot. That is a big issue when you're a young dentist.
it's
I've heard that a
huge.
lot. And then
Yeah,
one day I was like, hey, it was a time ago they said that I look young. I
I know, right?
was
It's
like,
so funny. When did that change? When
when
did I
did that
become old?
change? Yeah.
No,
So, and
it's
then they
funny.
start to believe like you just look experienced and you get another respect, and that helps as well. You don't have to try to say that you have experience because
That's
they can
right.
see it in your wrinkles and in your
You're
gray
not
hair.
defensive. Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I when I came out, I was 26-year-old, very baby faced. My hair was a lot darker than it is now. And I probably had, I bet 20 patients said, Doc, how old are you? Are you
Yeah,
old enough to be doing this?
yeah,
So my
yeah.
senior dentist was like, I think he was 59 when I started, and I was 26. And people were a
Mm,
little bit hesitant. I mean,
yeah,
as they got to know me, they got very comfortable with me as a person. And I
yeah,
think once they're comfortable with you as a person, then they get a lot more comfortable with you as a
yeah,
clinician. It's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, well, he makes me feel good. She makes me feel good. So I trust them,
yeah.
because that at the end of the day, it really does come down to how you make them feel. And I
Always.
mean, that transition from me being defensive, I'm 27 and a half, know, as a young dentist, to, what, it doesn't really matter because I'm just here to help you, and I'm going to do a
Yeah,
great job, and,
yeah,
they sense all of that. And so much
yeah,
of it just comes into, our mindset and how we
yeah,
feel about ourselves.
yeah. And that comes down to anything you're doing actually. Like,
Definitely.
people don't remember what you did, people remember how you made them feel.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Christina, when I was, let's see, I was probably about 10 years out of school. I took a sedation course, learned how to do oral conscious sedation, because I know like 40%, 50% of Americans don't go to the dentist due to fear. And so there's this huge underserved population. I thought, what a great way to serve them, with sedation. And so we started marketing towards, these patients who have high anxiety, with sedation. And honestly, it was so interesting, Christina. At that point in my career, I was so comfortable just chatting with people and listening to them and making them feel comfortable that if we had 10 patients come in for a sedation consult, by the end of our 15, 20-minute conversation, probably 7 of them decided, you know what? I don't think I need sedation. I think,
Mm,
yeah, I think I'm fine. Those other
yeah.
3 out of 10, they came in, had sedation appointment. And usually after one sedation appointment, they're like, I'm really not scared anymore. And
Mm,
so when you
They
can do
felt they
that.
had control. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Mm,
Exactly. If you can
mm,
do that for people, then they're never going to leave you. They're going to love you as a dentist, love you as a human and be grateful for, everything you were able to provide for them that
yeah.
they were too
Yeah.
afraid to do previously.
Yeah.
I love
What have
that.
you noticed in the dentist? What is the dentist that goes to the treats, your retreats? What are the biggest challenges they are facing?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times it's life balance. Our last retreat in Puerto Vallarta I did with Jeff Buski. He was my speaker, and I know you know of Jeff. He's an amazing guy. He has an amazing story. I met him in Bermuda last summer. He was on stage as one of our keynote speakers, and he was super passionate. He was really vulnerable, shared his story, which is so common among dentists
Mm.
in the US in particular. And man, so much of what he said really resonated with me. And so he was the first person I said, "Hey man, like I really want to do this with you. Like I want to get the message out. I want to make an impact with your story because we all have, some part of that." And so in Puerto Vallarta, Christina, we had docs who were doing anywhere from 3.5 million a year to 10 million a year. So they're already successful financially, but they had other things, and so one of the cool things with Jeff in both Puerto Vallarta and at our upcoming retreat in Dubai, he is the master of life balance, between uh, body, being, balance, and business. Really, how your body, mind, and spirit, when they are aligned and
Mm,
in balance, it impacts your relationships in a very positive way.
mm,
When your body, mind, and spirit are aligned and your relationships are better, well, that all impacts your business. And so his journey from, being in a really dark place 10 years ago to being highly successful today as a clinician, it was a journey, getting right with his body, his mind, his spirit, with his relationships. And so I think that all of us, I mean, as human beings, I mean, this isn't just dentists, as human beings, sometimes we've got one or two of those things really hitting on all cylinders, but then we might have two or three other things that just we're off.
mm.
And people like you and I, perhaps, that are drivers and we're always like trying to learn more, grow more, do more, it's easy to get out of balance. And so getting into
Mm,
alignment is, I think, something everybody needs. And that's something we're incorporating into every retreat.
yeah. Yeah, I
So
think balance is the most challenging things. Like
it
I
is.
love to when I train, I would love to train in the morning at the same time that I'm most creative in the morning. So my creative little Christina and the one who says you need to go to the gym, they are
Yeah.
like arguing.
I love that. I love that.
Well, I don't. I don't. I don't because I have to go. I have to go. And then I'm like, but I just want to write this because my mornings are the best moments. If I
Yeah.
have had a good sleep, I wake up 5 o'clock and I start 2 cups of coffee, and I'm like, I accomplish much more in those 4 hours than I can do a whole day. When is
You know
your
what?
peak?
You nailed it right there, Christine. I think controlling your morning is the most important thing that any of us can do as human beings if we want to be productive and find that balance. Because let's be honest, after a certain time in the morning, people want us. They want our time, they want our attention. We've got responsibilities. And so one of the things that I did with Jeff last summer, I turned 55 last July 27. On July 28th, I kind of made a lot of changes. I started getting up at 5 every morning. And what I do now, I have a full routine every morning, like between 5 and 8. It's like gym time, where doing some reading for personal growth. I'm meditating, I'm journaling. And today was the 294th day in a row where I got in a workout, and that is all a matter of, developing good habits, and
Mm,
good habits repeated daily become routines that ultimately become who we are. And so
yeah.
now, I mean, it's not optional. Like I've got to get that done,
Mm,
pretty much no matter what. I checked into my hotel in Dubai at 10 p.m. A few weeks ago. I went to vet all the properties and restaurants, and excursions and whatnot to make sure it was all up to par. I got to the hotel at 10 o'clock. And you know what? By 10:15, I was in the gym getting my workout in, or I would have broken my
Wow.
streak. And then by 11, I was sitting down to an amazing dinner, but I got my workout done. When I came
Wow.
home, I was so exhausted. I had jet lag and I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up at about 11:30. I was like, "Oh man," went straight down to the gym, got my workout in because that's who I am now. But that's we're all a product of our habits. And
Mm,
so we've all got good habits, we've all got bad habits. The trick, as you know, is to try to minimize the bad habits and really elevate those good habits,
mm,
because the more of those that we live by, the better we are, the more that we grow, and the
mm,
better everything we do is.
mm. I love it. It's so true. So
But
true.
first
So
thing in the morning, it's the only time like you got that time to yourself.
yeah, yeah, I love it. So what do you do? Do you like do you have an alarm clock that says now gym, now reading? Or how did you do in the beginning? Like what advice, because now it's
Yeah.
already a routine for you, but what advice can you give to the
You know,
listeners how to start these routines?
for sure. I'll be honest. It's a little bit easier for me because my wife gets up at 5 every morning. She goes
Mm,
to bed at 8 o'clock every night. She gets up at 5 every morning. She gets eight
wow.
or 9 hours of sleep every single night. Like, I'm super happy. If I get 6, I'm like fired up.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, honestly, it's hard. I've never considered myself a morning person. Although I used to have track
Mm,
practice at like 5:15 in the morning. I never consider myself a morning person. So it just has to become habitual. And I think that any habit, I mean, I've heard anywhere from 20 days to 45 days, but
yeah.
for me, it's just a matter of doing it for a couple of weeks in a row, and it just becomes easier. There's nothing easy about it at the beginning, but one thing you can't do is hit the snooze button. When your alarm goes off, you just got to get up and get moving. And I think
Even
one of
if
the
you're tired.
that's right. Even if you're
Mm,
tired. I mean, and for me, I look at it as a punishment to myself. If I stayed up until 2 a.m. and I'm going to feel like crap, well, that's on me.
mm.
Tonight I better go to bed earlier. I better sleep better so that tomorrow morning it's easier to get up and get it done. But you can also set yourself up for success the night before. I mean, in terms of your routine, getting ready for bed and how you do that, good sleep hygiene. And I'm saying all this, I don't necessarily practice great sleep hygiene. I'm not a great sleeper, but
Tell,
I'm getting
tell us about that.
I don't know. I think that my brain never shuts off. And so as soon as my head hits the pillow, my brain goes into overdrive.
Mm,
And I'm thinking about all these things. And sometimes it's hard to get to sleep. If I
mm.
sleep for 4 hours, typically I wake up with an idea. And then I have a hard time getting back to sleep. You,
Yeah.
you too? You have the same
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. What helps me to sleep? I sleep very fast because I go into YouTube
Yeah.
and I choose like meditation,
Yeah.
long meditations, like eight
Beautiful.
hours, night meditations. For
Wow.
example, it could be like, yeah, so try this. It could be
I
different.
like
So
it.
I choose depending of what I want and what I need. So sometimes it's meditation to connect with your higher self, like connect with your inner
Yeah. Yeah.
some, yeah, it could be different things. I listen to it and then I sleep. But they say that even if you're sleeping and you listen to this, you
Yeah.
unconsciously do, yeah,
A
things
hundred
are happening.
percent.
And then I wake up. Most of the times, I wake up when I should wake up. It happens sometimes that I wake up 3 o'clock with the most amazing idea. I have to
Yeah,
write it down. So I take my phone. It's not the best, but I take my phone. I send them email or I put it in the notes and I go
yeah,
back to sleep. But I have to listen a little bit to the meditation, but just for 2 minutes and then I go to sleep. And in the morning, I have more ideas. So I really believe, try it. I really believe that the meditation also sparks even more good ideas and it helps
no
me to
doubt.
go to sleep
I
too.
think that's a really good point, and I do think that, uh, I made a commitment 9 days ago that I was gonna get more sleep, and 7 out of
What
those
what
9 days.
happened? What happened 9 days? What was the
You know what?
insight
I
there?
woke up I woke up on Wednesday morning last week, and I was feeling a little groggy. And I felt like I had a call the night before, and I realized like I wasn't my best self. Like I
Mm.
didn't communicate, articulate my vision and what I was trying to accomplish as effectively as I would have if I'd been better rested. And Christina, the reality for me was it hit me like a ton of bricks that I for months was had been working 90 hours and more a week. The previous week was 104 hours because I just keep track of those things. It's how my brain works. But I was averaging 4 hours of sleep for that entire period of time as well. And I'm exercising every day, and just there was never a break, never a rest. And I know, it's one thing to know the answers, but it's another thing to like actually take action. And what I realized was that I'm not going to be my best self if I don't get my rest. And so, 9 days ago, I started that. And I think 7 out of 9 nights, I've gotten a minimum of 6 hours of sleep. Now, to this point, I have been taking a sleep aid just because I want to get to a baseline where I'm kind of like, okay, I'm caught up. And then some of those other things, meditating before bedtime, I'm starting to do that. I got an Aura ring, which, tracks your sleep, tracks all your other health metrics. And I want to see how this added sleep, improves all those other metrics. I leaned over to grab this book. I got this Do This Before Bed book, which I
Mm.
haven't started yet, but it has all these 5-minute practices that will change your life.
Wow.
So, there's so many resources out there, Christina, and there's so
Yeah.
many people who are dealing with some of the same things that you do and we do. That it's just a matter of, I think, committing yourself to it. And if you want to get up at 5 in the morning, set everything up the night before. So if you want to hit the gym immediately, make sure your workout clothes are there and ready to go.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to think
Yeah.
about it. It's like you basically step into your shoes and hit the road, whatever it is that you do. And then everything else, if you read the book Atomic Habits by
Yeah.
James Cleary, it talks about like habit stacking,
Yeah.
making things as frictionless as
Yeah.
possible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that like when you have that routine, it becomes something that you don't even have to think about
Mm.
because you stumble into one thing and then the next
Yeah.
thing and
Yeah,
then the
it's
next
like
thing.
eating your breakfast and later brush your teeth. You're not even thinking
Yes.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
exactly.
example. So if you
That's
do,
right.
yeah, so that's what you have done like when in the morning with your routines. What is the first thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the first thing you're doing? Do you have a cup of coffee first?
So I'll tell you what, if I'm by myself, I'm not a big coffee drinker. I feel like I'm
Mm.
naturally caffeinated to some degree. But
Oh,
a typical morning
you're
when I'm at
lucky.
home,
I
I get
need it.
I know, I know.
100%.
I do enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie, but if I'm not home, honestly, I don't even think about it. But when I'm at home, a typical morning, I get up with my wife at 5, and I sit and have coffee with her. We talk about our day, and then and I have 1 or 2 cups of coffee. At 5:28, I'm very particular, very precise. 5:28, my alarm goes off. I come in here, I sit at this desk right behind me, and I read at least for 30 to 45 minutes for personal growth.
Mm.
And right after that, I go right over to my Ames chair in the other corner, turn off all the lights, and I meditate for 10 to 15 minutes. After that, I journal for 10 to 15 minutes.
What
And
do you journal? What do you write in?
You know, I never journaled before, to be honest. The day after my 55th birthday was the day I changed that. I started journaling, and every day is a little different. Sometimes I journal about the things that I just read and then meditated on. It's incredible how often
Mm.
those two things dovetail. And I'm doing guided
Mm.
meditation most days, where I'm listening to the Calm app, and
Yeah.
Jay Shetty or
Mm.
Tamara Levitt are sort of walking me through different things. But sometimes I'm journaling about that. I Most days I'm journaling about yesterday and what was going on, what's going on today, because I like to sort of lay it all out there. And sometimes if there's something negative, um, I kind of get it out into my journal
Mm.
so that it's not in here as much.
Good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
love that. I love
after
that.
that, I usually put in my AirPods, and sometimes I listen to music, sometimes I listen to a book, an audible book,
Mm.
sometimes I listen to some positive self-talk, and I go down and I hit the gym for,
Yeah,
anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. And
lovely.
it's turned into a really nice
Yeah.
routine.
And that's important what you said, 30 to 60, because sometimes we think, oh, I don't have a whole hour. Today I won't do anything. But
Yeah.
if you just think like, okay, if I just do for 5 minutes, those 5 minutes will probably become 10,
Oh,
15. And it's okay if
absolutely.
it's only 30 minutes or 15 minutes. It's better than nothing.
Uh, this morning, I had my timing off on everything, and so I only had 20 minutes, but I went pretty hard for 20 minutes, and I
Mm,
got more out of that 20 minutes than I might have gotten out of going, half-ass for 40 minutes.
mm,
So I think you got to just work with the time that you have, and do what you can. And for me,
mm.
this whole streak that I'm talking about, 294 days in a row. I mean, I learned, I think through Atomic Habits, that the day that you really don't want to do it, the day that is the hardest, you're not feeling well, you don't have time, or you've been traveling, those are the most important days, even if it's only 15 or 20 minutes, because that bridges
Mm,
the gap to the next day. Maybe you
mm,
didn't get like a big physical benefit from it, but the mental and
mm.
emotional benefit that you get is even more powerful than the previous 10 days in a row, or whatever. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
interesting. Yeah, it makes. I think that's when your path in your brain, like, yeah, it becomes stronger
Yes, yes.
somehow
Well, and that
because it
comes
was
down to
difficult from the beginning. It was not a lightweight, it was difficult from the
right,
beginning, but you made it. So
right.
next day it will become even easier. That's what I think.
You got it. And I mean, I think a lot of that comes down to neuroplasticity too,
Mm,
which is a great concept that I didn't know much about. I for years, I mean, like into my 50s, well into my 50s, I'm thinking, we're just kind of the way we are. Then I start reading about neuroplasticity, like, wow, okay, so our brains are hard drives, and they get programmed, when we're kids and 20 somethings, and a lot of the programming is crap. We get a lot of negative programming, and it gets embedded, and we think, okay, well, it's the way it is. But when you realize that through intentionality we can rewire our brains,
yeah.
that is an exciting concept, and that's something that I've been pretty intent on doing for
Yeah.
at least the last 7 or 8 months.
Yeah. Yeah. For me,
So
it was since yeah, my last burnout. Yeah, that almost became a depression.
yeah,
2022. Then it was like when I really studied neuroplasticity and realized, and I have changed a lot
yeah,
during these 2 years. It's incredible, from feeling very much guilt, from being a people pleaser. I'm not
yes,
that person anymore. And people who know me and are close to me, they're like, wow, you have changed a lot. And the wonderful thing, the quote I put yesterday on my story, like, it has a ripple effect when you
mm,
heal, when you change and become a better true self. You change the other people around you as well. So when
you
I started
do.
to set boundaries, my husband started to set boundaries, you know. Sometimes I don't like it, but he's like, "You
Yeah,
taught me, Christina." I'm like, "Ugh."
I
And
know.
even with my mother, with my father, so it has this, and with the children. So the more we work on ourselves, the better world we create. It's
That's
like,
true. 100%. And so two things. One, I'm just going to comment that it is the whole concept of you got to put on your own oxygen mask first, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to help anybody else. And it goes for everything that we do in our lives. The more that we have, the more we have to give. And we don't take care of ourselves, then no, we don't have much to give to other people. But the other point that I want to circle back to that you made earlier is just about that loss of identity. I do think that it's not just dentists who lose their identity maybe when they stop practicing or sell their business or whatever. I think that any of us as humans who attach so much of our identity or too much of our identity to one thing or other, getting out of balance like that means that if that's taken away, we lose that sense of identity, and it can really spiral and lead to some serious depression. And I've been through that a couple of times, times
Mm,
where, I was always an athlete. I ran in track and cross country in college. I was an All American and did all these things. And as soon as that was gone, that had been my identity for a long time. Like I
mm,
didn't have anything to like fill that vacuum, that void, and it was problematic. And then as a dentist, I did that, and that was my identity. I was Smiles by Arnold. And then after I sold that, I'll tell you what, Christina, for the first 3 or 4 weeks after I sold, I was continuing to practice, and nothing changed to the patients or anything. All the change was in my head. It's like, oh my God, I'm not the owner anymore. That was my identity. And I got really depressed. And then, there's just those things I think too often come from being out of balance and having too much
yeah,
of our identity tied to one thing or another, which is
yeah.
why you being so well rounded with all of your various hobbies, I think is a super healthy thing.
I think it is, but that is something you have to balance as well. But
True.
it just came up now when you were saying these things. It just came up, the other day what I posted on another podcast when he said that the woman had called me boss bitch. This looks like I have
Yeah.
that I have control over everything. I just realized that what you said here, it's about, like I told him, I think it's about being authentic. I feel that
Yeah.
I have come to, mm, um I shouldn't say age, I don't know what to say, like a level in my
Yeah.
life where I
Life
feel
experience.
I'm true to myself. I try to be transparent as much as I can. And
Yeah.
but also what you said, I have lost things. I lost my identity, what I thought was my identity. And then I found myself. And today I really try, even if you remove my car, remove my house, remove the material things, I'm still me. And I
Yeah.
think that makes me maybe a boss bitch. When you're still,
Yeah.
it's
Hell
not
yeah.
about the things, it's not about the things around you. I am Christina and I'm happy for being me. I try to be the best version of myself every day. And
Yeah.
with those habits, like you said, I can be there. And that's for me personally, I'm transparent there. That's my biggest challenge. I work a lot. Yeah, I get a lot of dopamine and excitement from working. What can I do? So that is my challenge every day. Like I really have to, now I have to go out and go to the gym because I know it's good, but I could be working like the whole time. And now my
Yeah.
children are older, so
Me too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
How many kids do you have, and how old are they?
my children, I have three, and they are, Olivia is going to be 17.
Okay.
Pablo is going to be, I have to think a little bit how old I am. And
Yeah.
he's going to be 27 and Valentina 28. And
Okay.
yours?
My daughters are 24 and 22, and my sons are 20 and 18. So right now they're all 2 years apart.
Yeah,
It's
they're
really
a little
easy to
bit
remember.
like, yeah.
Yeah. In a couple more
Wow.
months, when my daughter turns 23, it all goes haywire. But
Yeah.
I think what you said just a minute ago is so true. It's like uh, we've got to find our way, and we can only do that if we are transparent and honest with ourselves first. I
Yeah.
think that sometimes we can delude ourselves into certain, thought processes or beliefs. But when we're honest with ourselves, it becomes a lot easier to be authentic with others. And I gravitate towards people who I sense as authentic.
Yeah.
And not everybody is, let's be honest. I mean, a lot of
Me
people
too.
put
Me
on different
too.
personas. And I find people who are able to, admit some of their challenges and failures along with their successes
Mm,
and, great things. They have more credibility in my eyes, and
mm.
I give what they say a lot more credence. And so, I've taken that upon myself. And it's like, look, if I can't be the real me and share some of those issues and challenges that I've had, then I'm not really in a position to help anybody else,
Yeah.
So
You're totally right. And one thing that happened, uh, it's just a few months ago. I think our children teach us a lot as well.
they
So a few
do.
months they do, even if we want or not, that
Yeah,
happens.
right.
But um, so a time ago, I put like a natural filter on Instagram, like not a obvious filter, but just like to remove some wrinkles,
Yeah, nothing wrong
some
with that.
tiredness. Yeah.
Sure.
And my daughter, my oldest, she said, "Mom, I don't follow people who put filter. If I see that they have a filter, I unfollow them." I really
Really?
appreciate my children's.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I was
I
like,
respect that. Wow.
"Yeah, me too." And I was like, "You're right. You're right. How can I sit and speak about authenticity when I put the
Yeah.
filter on?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if I
That's
cannot
wow.
accept my age or my, and that small thing from that day, I have not used any filter."
Good for you. That's
And it's not
amazing.
about the filter only. That helped me even become more Christina, become more myself, more authentic, more transparent. Just that small thing. So yeah,
You
we
know, it's
learn every
interesting.
day.
Here at my house, I think my kids would like me to be less authentic, less transparent. Like, oh my God, Dad, you know my friends follow you. This is so embarrassing. Like, why are you doing all these videos and things? It's
Yeah,
so
I
there's
know.
a balance in there somewhere, I guess. But
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Gosh, poor our children. Yeah, when we are so active on social media. I
yeah. Well,
uh
it's the worst thing for me, I think, Christina, when I got onto Facebook in 2007, so 18 years, I posted about my family like daily. And people would meet my kids somewhere and say, "Oh, I feel like I've watched you grow up." And my kids are like, "What? What?" And I'm like, "Don't say that. Oh my gosh." Now, I mean, honestly, Christina, it's to the point where my kids don't even want me to take pictures of them because they think I'm
no.
going to put everything online. And so,
Yeah.
it's interesting. As parents, yeah, we learn all these lessons and we try to
Yeah.
give our best to our kids and be there and do all those things. And we're still going to screw up somehow. And,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Every
hopefully
day.
it makes us better now as they're young adults.
But that's the, I don't know if it's a age thing, but I'm not really reflecting over this the screw ups, like the I'm not taking things
Yeah.
seriously anymore. I'm not taking myself
Good.
so seriously.
Good.
Life is life is short. Life is something we should just enjoy. And
It's a good reminder. It's a really good reminder because at 55, I still take everything probably way too seriously. And thank you for saying that because it's that perfectionist mentality comes in. I think it permeates everything that we do, and it's not a healthy way to look at anything. And I think as far as dentistry goes, I was able to get to a point finally where it wasn't the pursuit of perfection, it was the pursuit of excellence, because excellence is good enough. And
mm,
I do need to apply that same principle to all other areas of my life. It's one of those things, do as I say, not as I do sometimes.
mm, yeah. What triggers you?
What triggers me? Oh boy.
That was a question you
You
didn't
know,
expect.
ignorance. Ignorance triggers me.
Mm,
I mean the kind of ignorance that means that you're not accepting of other people. I think I see too much of
mm,
that.
mm,
I I accept everybody for who they are, and uh, can embrace all kinds of different people. It's one of the reasons why I like to travel so much. I love to be exposed to different
mm,
cultures, different people. And what I've found, Christina, is that we all have a lot more in common than we have different.
mm,
And I think that there are too many closed-minded people who think that their way is the only way, or that or they're very ethnocentric and think that no other way is as like credible as their way.
mm.
I that triggers me. I have a hard time with that
Yeah, yeah,
for sure.
yeah. That's so far away from my thinking. Like I
Yeah.
cannot even understand how.
Oh, hey, I'm sorry. One more thing that triggers me is when people drive slowly in the fast lane. That really makes me crazy. I have a few others. You know what? It's so funny you asked
I
that
have a few
question.
others.
No one has ever asked me that question, but in my mind for the last decade, I want to have an anonymous Twitter account so I can just rage about all the things that trigger me. I haven't done it. I haven't done it, but
But you
that
know
goes
what
through
they
my mind
say when
periodically.
things are triggering you, there are things that you have to work on. So
It's
when
true.
you, I don't
Yeah,
know
you're
about the
right.
first thing you said, you don't have to work on that. The other people have to work on it.
Yes, true.
But when it comes to driving slow, yeah,
Yeah.
that trigger maybe is a sign that you should slow down.
It absolutely is. And Christina, I am a firm believer that the bigger hooray I'm in, the more obstacles the universe puts in my path. You know, whether it's God, the universe, energy, whatever you believe, I know it to be true because every single time, the more I want to speed up, the more the universe makes me slow down.
Yeah,
And that what you just said is just sort of a perfect illustration of that. You're right.
I totally agree with that. How so this podcast, this is the last, will be the last question before you tell us how people can reach to you or reach you. Um this podcast is called Stress to Success. What is one tip you could give to the listeners, to the dentists, how to reach success? But first of all, what is success to you, and then how can they reach it?
So success to me is freedom, you know, and I think in the bigger global picture, it's freedom to do what you want when you want. But I think there are other kinds of freedom too, you know, freedom to think the way you want, freedom to just be, you know, without heaping too much criticism on yourself, you know, because we sometimes tend to be hard on ourselves, harder than other people are on us. So freedom from that sort of thinking, I think, is important, and to me that's success. Now, in terms of how to get success or how to be there, like I'll name two actually. Maybe the first two that come to mind. One, in terms of professional success, find mentors, find people doing the things that you want to do. Uh,
Mm,
the people who do it well, who you find to be credible, who you feel like you could learn something from. That's the best way to fast track your way to success, I think, professionally, whether it's as a clinician, whether it's as a leader, communicator, business person. Um, so I think mentorship is important and always have them. I'm 55. I still have mentors. You know, I went from having 17 mentors, you know, when I was 30 to, you know, maybe a half a dozen now. But then the other thing is to always make time for personal growth. You know, whatever that looks like for you. You know, we all have different things that we want to learn and grow about. But if you don't make that time for personal growth, uh, you know, I think that you start dying as soon as you stop growing. So those are
mm,
my two tips for
mm.
success.
And how does that look like, working on your personal growth? Is it reading, or what could that look like?
I think it's a variety of things. I mean, I think it's having a routine. And for me, it's a morning routine. I mean, it could be an afternoon routine, it could be a bedtime routine. I think that we're all different. You know, we all have different ways of accomplishing the things we want to accomplish. But I think that reading and meditation and journaling are three great ways to do it. Physical exercise, just movement, whatever it is. It could be a walk, it could be a run, it could be strength training, it could be a lot of things. I think that is something that frees you up and de-stresses for sure. And I think that a lot of times that personal growth comes through interaction with others, you know, finding a great coach, you know, finding somebody who has been there and kind of knows what you're going through. Or if you haven't gone through that exactly, you've talked with other professionals who have gone through that. And so you're able to share your perspective. And so I think that what you're doing is a beautiful thing. I think that what I'm doing with Jeff Buski and some of my other speakers with the luxury dental retreats is a beautiful thing. But find those mentors, find
Mm,
that avenue for personal growth, whatever that looks like for you. It may be personal, you know, with a book
mm,
or with a meditation, or it may be finding community and finding others with whom you can relate, interact, problem solve, and just
Mm,
feel seen and heard.
mm. Love that. Are your retreats only for men?
No, no,
No.
no. They are for men and women. I
Mm,
will say the one in Puerto Vallarta with Jeff was just men
mm,
because Jeff coaches male dentists.
mm,
That having been said, in Dubai, we have three speakers, and Steve Rasner is going to talk about. He's a surgical master. He's also a business and leadership master. He's grown a very very profitable practice in one of the worst parts of New Jersey. And then Jeff Buski, he's going to talk to the male and female dentists just about that life balance. We all have body, mind, and spirit. We all have relationships, and we all, at this retreat probably have businesses. And if not our own businesses, we have other things that we're doing, as entrepreneurs, investors, whatever.
mm,
So Jeff's going to really cover all of that. And then Elijah Desmond is going to get into increasing the value of your practice, growing EBITDA and planning for your eventual transition. So you get the most value
mm,
for your practice, and not only in money, but in terms of finding the right partner. So,
mm,
that retreat will cover all of those different bases. But again, um, men and women will benefit.
mm. Wonderful.
I'll
So how do
benefit.
they? Yeah. So how can they find you?
Anybody's welcome to text me at 219-241-4698, and we can set up a call. Or they can email me at
Mm,
drarnold, like Dr. Arnold, at smilesbyarnold.com. And I'm pretty responsive most of the time.
mm. Great. I We will put that. So meanwhile you're saying
Thank you.
this, it will come up. So
All right.
people,
That's awesome. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
wow.
And if they want to
That's
know
lovely.
about the luxury dental retreat coming up, it's luxurydentalretreats.com/Dubai. And
Mm,
it gives a full rundown on exactly what we'll be doing, what to expect, and, the Ritz Carlton luxury white glove service
mm.
and
Wow.
all that good stuff. So fun
Wonderful.
stuff. This is the part of my career where I can really enjoy, kind of giving back and creating value for others based on my experience and relationships. So I'm really excited about this. It's a passion project.
You're doing a great job. And I have to mention as well your newsletters on LinkedIn.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you.
because
Yeah,
those are
actually,
incredible.
I appreciate that. Today, so I've done 17 newsletters, and I think a couple of bonuses in there too. But today, blog number 17 came out, and so what I do, I release a newsletter on an important topic every Tuesday. But so everybody can kind of get into it and maybe start to think about it, incorporate it, talk to their teams about it. But then on Friday, I go deeper. The blog is significantly longer and more detailed, and I think gives more
Mm,
frameworks and like really practical tips that they can start to use like that day or that next Monday. So it's kind of a theme each week that I
mm,
try to focus on, and I usually post a few times about whatever that theme is, just sort of the whoever's following me, I hope that it does get them into that mindset. And if they see one
mm.
or two of these things, it helps them sort of do a reset and
Yeah.
be
I'm
be
sure
better
you're
for the people.
helping a lot of people that you don't even know of, you know?
Well, I hope so. We all
Yeah.
worry about engagement. We all look and say, "Gosh, nobody's liking this or nobody's commenting," and you know, but I think ultimately you're right. I think most people who you have some sort of impact on, you may never have a conversation with.
Mm,
And I do get a lot of direct messages. I do get a lot of
mm,
texts from people I know who have never interacted with me online at all. And so I think that's important. A friend of mine just reminded me of that this morning, that it's not so much about engagement. It's about the people who, you may never hear from, who may
mm.
get something out of what you share, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. And these newsletters, you can make online education. You can turn that into online education and get a passive income.
You're
You
you're
know?
right. There's no doubt about it. I mean, at this point, I'm giving it all away because I want to create value, and
Yeah.
and to be honest, I want to create some engagement with the ecosystem that I'm building. With my
Mm,
faculty, we have their 10 faculty members plus me, and I'm going to expand to 20 or 30 because there are about 50 people who want to be a part of this. And I've got an advisory board, and I've got trusted partners, and a variety of other things. And so everything that I do out there from a content standpoint, I wanted to create the kind of value that makes people want to come in and,
Mm,
perhaps take part in something else we're doing. I'm building
yeah.
a group of dental practices now. I
Mm,
sold my practices 10 years ago, and I miss that. I miss being a leader. I miss having teams that want to follow a vision. I miss partnering with doctors, and so that's
mm,
part of my ecosystem as well. So
mm.
if my website was up and live, I would share it right now. But we're probably still we still have some work to do because I'm trying to make it perfect. I shouldn't say
Good things takes time.
they do. Right, absolutely.
Wow. Thank you so much. Finally, we meet. We have
I
followed each
know.
other for a time.
I
It feels like
know.
I almost know you.
Same here. I'm
Yeah.
thrilled to have met you too, Christina. It's a great conversation. Keep doing all the beautiful things you're doing,
Thank
and
you. You
thank you
too.
for including me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And good luck at the retreat. And let's catch up afterwards and you tell me all about it.
Can't wait. Thanks so much, Christina. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Thank
Bye
you. Have
bye.
a lovely day. Bye.
You too.